All right, everybody. So now we're going to move into sort of the next area here, which is really to talk about the ways that we can use our new labeling system, our new naming system, where we sort of had C natural. I'm hoping you already haven't forgotten. C natural is 0, right? We can sort of move up from there so that we remembered using a fully diminished 7th chord to have something that's going to be sort of like 0, 3, 6, 9. And then the super fun ones are that B flat, we remember, is 10, and B natural is 11. So fun to be note named 11. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about some of these relationships here. This is going to be critical for us. So, relationships enter a whole new phase of this sort of system. And this is really where we start to see why we use this new and different terminology, because we can start to describe things differently. We know that up to this point, pretty much every relationship that we've talked about in music came out of our understanding of scales and triads and all that stuff. You know, we talk about notes functioning as like the third of the chord or whatever. Or, you know, we talk so much about the leading tone in a scale, right? That note, its whole identity is built on its relationship to the key in this chord. That note's whole thing is based on its relationship to the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th type scenario. So that's a really critical thing. But we're going to start to see relationships that are based more on intervallic relationships, and we have a really unique and helpful way that we can think about this using what's called the Modulus 12, or, you know, the cool kids would just say Mod 12 system, which definitely sounds a little space-agey, sounds a little funky, but we're going to see that you actually already know a lot about the Mod 12 system. 12 is a note, 12 is not a note. The highest note that we know is 11, right? 12 is a number that gets used here. It is a very important musical number because of the half steps in an octave. Remember, we're talking about the equivalence of all the notes, and so having a system built on 12 is really central to that, and that's sort of where we come at this from. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a clock face to help us to understand this, because we actually already are familiar with the Mod 12 system. So let's take a look at a clock face with some notes on it, and hopefully by looking at that visual, you'll certainly say, yeah, I guess I have seen that before, right? We know that at the top of our clock we don't have a 0, but we have a 12, but everywhere else around you really can see the numbers as they would be arranged on a clock. And so the Mod 12 system is a system that counts note distances the same way that we count time. So we're really looking at distance between notes here. And the biggest starting point as far as a principle or a rule goes is that we always go clockwise. We don't ever go counterclockwise. That's a lie. We do sometimes go counterclockwise, but for counting to start, we always go clockwise on Mod 12. Just like time goes forward, time doesn't go backward. Fun fact. And so to sort of prove that we already know how this works, before even explaining it, we can just say, okay, how many hours are there from 10 to 1? And I'm hoping that you know that there are 3 hours from 10 to 1. And so that's the same way that we count this. Again, always going clockwise, we can really easily start to measure some distances here, because just like 10 to 1 is a distance of 3, we could sort of say that we can look at everything, and we're not talking about up, down. Remember, when we talk about intervals, usually in music, that up or down is a big part of it, and we worry a lot about what the bottom note is, right? Like when I'm trying to go the interval between this note and that note, we care a lot about the key signature of the bottom note and how that all is sort of related. We're not worried about that here. Instead, we're just going distance, not up or down. So if we start to get real fancy with this, in the theory of atonal music, you sometimes hear this called the transposition level. So the transposition level between 10, which is B flat, and 1, which is D flat, we would say is a transposition level of 3. So similarly, let's sort of figure out what the level of transposition from an A natural to a G natural, or we might say from 9 to 7 would be. What would that transposition level from 9 to 7 be? Remember, we're going around the clock clockwise. So the other way you could think about this would be, how many hours is it from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.? And I'm hoping that you would get to the answer 10. That's a distance of 10. It's common, the common mistake that people would make would be to say that that's a distance of 2, right? Because you just go 9, 8, 7, 10. Ooh, wow. But that's going counterclockwise. So when we go clockwise, we always think that it goes around. So that's 10. And the fun thing is, whether I play it like this, or I played A going to that G, this 9 to this 7, we're still saying that that's the same level of transposition. When we were doing intervals in the tonal system, the direction really matters, because we know perhaps that E flat up to C, for instance, we'd call that a major sixth. But when it's downwards, it's a minor third. That's not how we do things here. 9 to 7 is 10, just like 9 to 7 is 10. So that's a very, very, very unique way of thinking about things, and it really can change a lot of not only how we have to think about things, but it can change what we can do with it. So let's just do a tiny little bit of practice with this. We're going to go into finale here really quickly and just do some simple practice here. So here's our finale thing. So let's sort of see what we can come up with here. I've got a little MIDI keyboard over here that I don't know if you guys can see that, but so if I said, okay, so let's go here, and let's say, what would the distance be? These are the notes we just used. From E flat. Is it going to work? Oh, boy. I don't like that E flat. Let's go up. I think I hit a funny button. E flat up to C. So let's think about that. E flat, what's the number that we give to E flat? It's 3. So then what's the number that we give to C natural? It's 0. So what's that distance going to be? Be thinking to yourself. It's going to be 9, which is kind of crazy. E flat to C natural, or 3 up to 0 is a distance of 9. Let's do another one. This is going to be a little bit of an easier one. Let's start with F sharp, and let's go up to B flat. Now, if we were thinking about this in a tonal setting, we would think that F sharp to B flat, those two notes don't really seem like they should go together, but we're not in a key. And so F sharp, B flat, everybody's cool with everybody. So the number that we give to F sharp is 6, and then the number that we give to B flat is 10. So this is a distance of 4. And this is the beauty of this system, is that we're not worried about what key we're in. We're worried about the relationship between the notes. All right, let's do one more pair here. So let's do, let's do this note, and then let's do going to this note, right? So here, now, the notes are going downwards, right? All the other ones, our first 3 went up, up, and now we've got that. So we would think that the naming would be different, but remember, it's not. Everything's equivalent. We're always going clockwise around the circle. So B natural is what? Is 11, and E natural is what? 4. So 11 to 4, what distance is that going to be? 5. We're going to call that a transposition level of 5 from 11 to 4 because we're always going clockwise. All right, so that's just a little bit of an introduction to this. We're certainly going to see, as we go forward more and more, how we can use these to create some new relationships, to highlight things that we couldn't when we were just focused in the major and minor system, all kinds of that. All right, I'll see you soon.